Well, an atmosphere of deep shock and intense rage grips Bengaluru. Just 1 week ago, remember, in this very city, which was reeling from the unspeakable horror which was exposed inside a premier corporate daycare facility at the Capgemini campus. There were toddlers, just 2- and 3-year-olds, allegedly subjected to systematic torture by the very nannies who were paid to protect them. Those are the visuals that you can see on the left-hand side of your screens. On the other side, that trauma is still raw and the fear of our children being unsafe still lives on. This is a brand new story that you can see on the right-hand side of your screens, horror which has struck the city again. This time around, it is a class 6 student, a schoolboy. He is no more. He died under deeply suspicious circumstances inside a residential school campus. His name is Gurkiran. You can see Gurkiran there on your screens. He's a 6th grade student, and the school authorities now are claiming that the boy simply collapsed while jogging during the routine morning drill. They say that Gurkiran fell ill. They rushed him to the hospital and then he passed away even before he reached the hospital. But his family, well, they are telling a completely different story, a very chilling story. His family is alleging that there was no medical emergency, that he was a healthy boy, he had no heart conditions. They allege it was brutal physical torture by the PE student which led to his death. That the victim's father is making these devastating charges on camera. He has accused the school's PE teacher, Narayana, of assaulting his son. He's alleged that the child was hit on his head with a steel rod. Relatives are now saying that the school has completely stonewalled them, offering them zero transparency. You got some visuals also earlier showing the protests which had happened in the school. In fact, there is zero clear answers, the parents allege, on the exact sequence of events that led to the healthy 12-year-old boy losing his life. Furious protests have erupted outside the campus. We were showing you those visuals. We'll go back to that of the protest. The family members are demanding immediate accountability and a thorough criminal investigation into it. Well, this is the horror which is now slowly unfolding. Listen in to what his family alleges.
ಪಿಟಿ ಮೇಷ್ ನಾರಾಯಣ ಅನ್ನೋನು ಸ್ಟೀಲ್ ರಾಡಿಂದ ತಲೆಗೆ ಹೊಡೆದು ಸಾಯಿಸ್ಬಿಟ್ಟವನು.
ಯಾರನ್ನ ಸರ್ ಸಾಯಿಸಿರೋ?
ನನ್ನ ಮಗ ಗುರುಕಿರಣ್ ಅಂತ.
ಎಷ್ಟು ವರ್ಷ ಸರ್
ಅವನಿಗೆ 12 ವರ್ಷ.
ಏನು ಓದ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು ಸರ್?
6th and 6ನೇ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಓದ್ತಿದ್ರು.
ಏನಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಈ ತರ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ?
ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆ ಎಬ್ಬರಿಸಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಎದ್ದಾಳ್ತಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳನ್ನ ಎಬ್ಬರಿಸೋ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ತರ ಮಾಡೋದು.
ಹಾಸ್ಟೆಲ್ ಇದ್ರ? ನಿಮ್ಮ
ಹಾಸ್ಟೆಲ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ
ಸರ್, ಇವಾಗ 6th ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್ ಮಗುಗೆ ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಒಂದು ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಅಥವಾ ಮುಂಚೆ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಸೈನ್ಸ್ ಇರಬೇಕು. ಬಿದ್ದು ಕುಸಿದ್ ಬಿದ್ರು ನಾವು ಶವಗಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ತಗೊಂಡ್ಬಂದು ಮಲಗಿಸಿದೀವಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವೇನಂತ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು? ರಾಜ್ಯಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದು 1 ತಿಂಗಳು ನಮ್ಮ ಅಜ್ಜಿ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಬಂದ, ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದ್ದ, ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಆಟಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಆರೋಗ್ಯವಾಗಿದ್ದ ಮಗು ಸರ್. ಹೇಳ್ತಿಲ್ವಾ, ಒಂದು ಚೂರು ಅವ್ನಿಗೆ ಹೆಲ್ತ್ ಇಶ್ಯೂಸ್ ಅಂತ ಏನೂ ಇರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ನೈಟ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇವ್ರ ಅಪ್ಪ ಹತ್ರ ಮಾತಾಡಿ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗೇ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಹಿಂಗೆ ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾಗಿ ಯೂನಿಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಬೇಕು, ನನಗೆ ಯೂನಿಫಾರ್ಮ್ಗೆ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಹಾಕಿ ಅಂತ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಜಾಗಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ನನಗೆ ಶೂಸ್ ಕೊಡ್ಸಿ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಇವ್ರಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಫೋನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಇಂಟಿಮೇಟ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆನೆ ಪೊಲೀಸರು ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಹತ್ರ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಪ್ರೂಫ್ ತೋರಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ವಲ್ಲ. ಅವರು ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಬಿದ್ದ ಸರಿ, ಅವ್ರ ಹತ್ರ ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾ ರೆಕಾರ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಪ್ರೂಫ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಅವ್ರು ಹೆಂಗ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಹಿಂಗಾಗಿದೆ, ಹಿಂಗ್ ಬಿದ್ರು ಅಂದಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ನಾವ್ ಹೆಂಗ್ ಒಪ್ಕೊಬೇಕು ಸರ್? ಅವ್ರು ಹೆಂಗ್ ಬಿದ್ರು ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ.
Well, let me go across to Akshara, our reporter who's joining us live from Bengaluru. Akshara, you must tell us, legally speaking, how is this proceeding? The parents are alleging that this was murder after there was torture on this child. What about the police? Is there a case which has been filed? What's the update?
Well, a case has been registered at the Bengaluru police station. A murder case has been registered. We also spoke to the cops regarding the issue. They are not disclosing much information at this point, but they are stating that they're yet to receive the post-mortem details. Once the post-mortem details are out, they'll be able to ascertain regarding the details of this incident that has taken place on what led to the death of this kid. And right now, we are also here in front of the school, the very same school where the incident has taken place. While the investigation is going on, the school authorities have shut the school and although also they have sent the residential students back home, so it has been completely shut, and the principal is inside the school right now. We tried to speak to her regarding the issues. She refused to comment on the issues. She said that she's just spoken to the police officials. She would not be able to comment on the issue. But yes, the parents of this kid have alleged that this kid was assaulted with a steel rod on the back of his head. So that's just an allegation that has come forward by the parents regarding this incident that has taken place. The police officials are yet to disclose the complete details. They are stating that once the post-mortem report is out, they'll be able to get the details. But yes, a shocking incident that has taken place just after the daycare incident that took place a couple of weeks back here in Bengaluru, leaving many parents anxious because they'll be sending their kids to daycare and such residential schools, so thinking that they'll be able to afford them good education, quality education, and they'll be able to study properly in such residential schools. But such incidents coming to the fore has raised concern about the safety of their kids in schools.
Tara, do stay on with us. You spoke about the case of Monster Nanny, the horror that we all remember came in from Bengaluru, daycare horror. In fact, let's remind our viewers, this is one of those cases which had sparked off, remember, nationwide outrage. Children as young as 2 and 3 years old were allegedly subjected to abuse and intimidation by the caregivers. According to the police complaint, the children were allegedly locked inside bathrooms. In that case, they were sprayed with water jets from the toilet and subjected to disturbing acts which were meant to frighten them. The alleged abuse, remember, came to light after shocking videos surfaced that you can see on your screens as well on social media, which prompted a distress call to the child helpline. The visuals show caregivers allegedly mistreating students, the children there, toddlers in the crèche, leaving the victims terrified and so distressed that these children could even compare and complain to their parents. Well, there were 2 institutional spaces, 2 incidents within a week. First, the toddlers, now the 6th grader. Both of these horror stories coming in from Bengaluru, the city that we hope to become a smart city, India's IT hub. And this is the horror when parents are out there trying to earn for a better future for their children. It is their children whose care they entrust to these people who turn out to be predators. This is one fundamental question that everyone today is asking. How safe are our children anywhere? And are these people that we entrust our children with safe enough? Well, this is going to be one of the top focus stories that we are going to be getting for you here on Times Now. But here on Setting the Agenda, let's move on in the bulletin. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has arrived in Australia after concluding the Indonesia leg of his 3-nation Act East tour. In fact, he's reached a very warm welcome. You can see the visuals there, which are coming in from Melbourne with vibrant Indian cultural performances as well, which were performed for the Prime Minister. During the visit, Prime Minister Modi also held bilateral talks with the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and even attended the 3rd India-Australia Annual Summit. In fact, the 2 leaders discussed ways to strengthen cooperation in trade, defence, technology and Indo-Pacific security as well. Well, counter-terrorism also has remained a key focus for both of them. In fact, both the countries have reaffirmed their commitment to enhancing cooperation against terrorism and have condemned the recent terror attacks which have happened in Pahalgam as well as the Bondi Beach. In fact, we are going to be going across to our special guest joining us today on the broadcast. We have Battin. He's an MP. He's also a shadow minister for sports, police and corrections. Thank you so much for joining us. And it is a historic day that we are meeting today because, Mr. Battin, I believe you were part of the interaction that several of your MPs had as Prime Minister arrived in Australia. You were part of the ceremonial welcome as well, which was accorded to him in Melbourne. Great fanfare. And it's not just about the Prime Minister. It is the relationship between the 2 nations that everyone has a lot of high hopes for. What was your interaction with the Prime Minister like?
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us on, and it is an exciting day. At this stage, I actually haven't been involved just yet. I'm going down straight after this interview. We're heading down.
Okay.
There'll be about 30,000 local Indian people who are coming into the one event to come in and celebrate Modi being in town. And I can tell you from the people from my community, they're very excited. They're looking forward to the evening. It's going to be a big, as you said, it's a big fanfare. There'll be lots of celebrations. I'll be joining other members of Parliament from the Victorian Parliament to go down and have our official welcome. And we're starting in about the next hour and a half or 2 hours. And I'm sure that'll be an exciting night for the whole audience.
In fact, the relations between the two nations, especially under Prime Minister Modi and Australia, have been flourishing for quite some time now. As it happened, your party was in power under both Prime Minister as well as Scott Morrison now currently. Well, there is a different government now under the Labour Party, which is led by Anthony Albanese. So what really are going to be the constants when it comes to a shift in power? Or do you see that there are very fewer differences when it comes to relationship in India?
Well, I can speak mostly on the Victorian part. Here in Victoria, our former Premier Ted Baillieu back in 2010 had a very strong relationship with the Indian community and ensured we opened up the doors for trade locally. So Victoria, obviously one of the states within Australia. Since then, many of us have had the opportunity, and it is bipartisan, many of us go across and ensure we keep those conversations going about trade. But what we do know now is I've been over to India 3 or 4 times now, and I've thoroughly enjoyed not just going and visiting, but discussing with businesses, particularly in education. Education is one of our biggest trades that we have between us and India. And I think it's really important that we continue those discussions and those open doors going forward. And our Governor-General here in Victoria actually was one of the ones with Monash who went over and opened up one of the schools over there to keep the bilateral relationships going. But education is a big focus for us, but we also know whilst the feds talk about the defence and ensuring we can have a defence cooperation between India and Australia, we talk about it more from here, about the production of what we can work together on, equipment, etc. as well. So what can we produce here in Victoria? What can we collaborate with going back over to India, whether it's in security or the actual manufacturing of items as well.
Well, speaking about collaboration, a short while back, in fact, there's news coming in that our two nations are working on some kind of an arrangement when it comes to the supply of uranium to India as well. This is, of course, part of an agreement which was signed for the civil nuclear cooperation in 2015. However, it's taken about 10 years now to operationalize. Do you think this is going to be one of the key ingredients in the energy partnership between the two nations?
Yeah, I understand there's an agreement. I haven't seen or been part of it, but there is an agreement being done between our Prime Minister and your Prime Minister and the governments to talk about uranium and other energy policy. What we do know is when we talk about energy, we want to ensure that we become a very big partner, whether it's all of Australia or my focus here on Victoria, with the Indian community and with the Indians. As they grow, the country, as we know, will have probably one of the largest middle-class populations in the near future. It's really important that Australia and particularly Victoria have a focus on how we can support that with that growth, so we can have a win-win from both sides of governments, whether it's here in Victoria or over in India as well. And that includes looking at uranium and other energy supplies. We've also supplied gas in the past, and we want to continue those relationships moving forward.
In fact, since you touched upon the case of West Asia, the war unfortunately has resumed. We speak to you at a time where there seems to be another rough patch coming up. What do you see as the implications for the Indo-Pacific regions because of this war? And how can India and Australia be partners in containing some of the fallout of the war?
I think we hear a lot about it from what's happening, particularly what's happening in with the fuel supplies and energy supplies coming out from there. I actually think there's a great opportunity for Australia and India to work closer together on this, and others from the Southeast Asia community to come across and work with Australia closer. There'll be plenty of opportunities that we can grow our industries and grow connections and grow those relationships. And we know we've already started to do it, particularly in the Pacifica, and we're seeing more and more connections through there. But to start to see more connections now, right now, we've got that opportunity, particularly if there's going to be an issue with fuel supply, that we can work together to guarantee fuel supply for our nations in the future.
Well, absolutely. That collaboration and cooperation is going to be very significant, especially in the Indo-Pacific area. Now, the two nations have also been negotiating a broader comprehensive trade agreement, the SECA. Is that still work in progress? I believe it's not going to happen this time around, but what are the sticking points? How do we go about it?
Yeah, as I understand, it's still a work in progress, and I know that bipartisan. All parties are very interested in making sure this does work. As I said, it's sort of a difficult one here because that is a federal issue, and I haven't been involved directly in it. But I know that the Victorian government and the Victorian opposition are both very keen to ensure we work together. We would love to see open up opportunities for trade, whether through free trade or agreements that we can. We know that we've got a lot to offer here in Victoria, particularly around grain, around energy supply, what we can put into the market in India. We've got some of the best farms here probably in the world, to be honest, but they can actually supply a lot of the food supply, etc. across. So there's so many opportunities we can open up here that I think are really important.
Well, yes, in fact, one of the very sensitive ones, because India has been very sensitive when it comes to the exposure of imported dairy and agricultural products, something that you've touched upon. But do you believe that it is only a matter of time before these issues get ironed out as well, something that you'd mentioned?
Yeah, I think it is a matter of time because it's very important, particularly to our economy here in Victoria. It is a matter of time before we start to have, and we can open up those doors easier. And that's what we'll always back on the side of our farmers here. We work with our farmers to ensure that we can get them into the markets anywhere in the world. And obviously that particularly includes that Southeast Asia and the growth areas. We've spoken about, I know we already trade with many of the nations around there, but I think there's so many opportunities we can create for our farming industry here so we can get better opportunities for export. And that includes, we already go to the fairs over there to ensure that our products are present and in the front of people and they're front of mind. And we know for a fact that we can produce more and get it into the market a lot faster than many other places in the world.
Well, you're the Victoria Shadow Minister, and there's a huge Indian diaspora there. It has emerged as one of the key factors as well in the Indo-Australian ties over the last couple of decades. Good to see that cooperation and, of course, the human-to-human ties increasing. Now, Indian talent and mobility of this talent is also one of the talking points now. So how do you see the evolving debate when it comes to immigration, when it comes to visas in this context?
Yeah. When it comes to the visas, and again, the federal government takes care of it, but I'm lucky. I represent one of the largest Indian diasporas in Victoria, if not in Australia, where my constituency is. And what I've seen over time is the people coming over here, particularly when they come across to study, they get an opportunity to remain on here in Australia, and those skills we get the opportunity to benefit from, whether it's in health. There's so many different areas that they've been involved in, that many people from India have been involved in here. But also because of the education trade, it gives us an opportunity to educate and upskill people who are going back to India. Because as the growth happens, you were speaking before about Bengaluru, where you want to create a smart state. There's opportunities for students to come across to Australia, bring back some knowledge from here, and cooperation and collaboration. That's where the key for us is for the growth. That's where the key between us and the Indian diaspora is, that we can actually continue that engagement because both of us benefit from that. We don't want everyone from India coming across here and working and then staying here and not taking any of that expertise back to India. There's got to be a good mix on that as well so both countries can benefit.
Oh, that's an interesting point. Yes, both nations can benefit from what Australia has to offer. But one love that India and Australia both share is the love for cricket. We have to talk about that, where both our teams, of course, are competing hard against each other as well. But tell us about some of the lessons that perhaps Australia can offer when it comes to its sporting success that India perhaps can imbibe.
Oh, I think the first thing is, I think you've got to find out, you've got to go have one of the best women's cricket team in the world. And
yes,
Australia, lucky enough to win the World Cup again the other day, which was magnificent, very exciting. I actually think from the IPL, there's a lot for us to learn. We've got our big bash, but I think there's so much opportunity to engage. And I know I've been speaking to Cricket Victoria and they want to expand the programs here to invite not your top tier, but your next generation of cricketers from India across to Australia. So again, we can give them opportunities here in Victoria to grow their sport, to grow their skills and take that back over to India. And again, sport speaks all languages. So I think this will create opportunities for us long term in the future.
One last question, Brad Battin. Which has a brighter future, Indian cricket team or the Australian one? I know we are trying to improve our ties, but this one I can't let you off without asking.
Look, I have to say, Australia, I think we've got a massive future coming. But in saying it, some of my favourite cricketers, I have to say, have come from India. And meeting Kohli was one of the probably highlights out of, I know I'm going to meet the Prime Minister today, but meeting Kohli, it's going to be very hard to top.
Well, let's just agree to disagree there. But then we all, as cricketing nations, love to see your sport as well as ours. And of course, when it comes to the IPL, some of the topmost rankers are, of course, coming in from your nation. So we really appreciate that. And I really feel that, yes, it's important to work towards SECA. We work towards strategic ties, but human-to-human ties when it comes to education, when it comes to training, when it comes to the love of cricket. All of that really are going to get the two people together as well. Really appreciate it for joining us here, Brad Battin. Well, this is one of a glimpse that you're getting about what can be expected as Prime Minister is on his tour to Australia, and we are going to be looking at strategic ties. It is, of course, called the Act East policy, which is going to be pushed as he goes to Australia. Next stop is going to be New Zealand. We're going to get you minute-by-minute updates coming in from that visit. But for the time being, we wrap up setting the agenda. Thank you for watching.